release last night, the WNBA PA, the Players Union, they're crashing out. They're crashing out, and they look less and less professional by the moment. Fans are recognizing this. There are things that they cannot keep this from getting personal.
That one sentence sums up everything that is wrong with the way these conversations are going. What may be the most nuanced labor statement in recent sports history was recently released by the WNBA Players Association. And the harsh public response. Initially sympathetic to the players, fans are now strongly supporting ownership. In a labor dispute, something is not meant to occur. What, then, went so terribly wrong?
Was their statement, quote, you may be like, Rhodes, you got glasses on. Yeah, because they released this statement with this tiny-ass writing on it. I don't think... no, that doesn't do anything for increasing image size like that. So, at midnight, the 2020 WNBA WNBPA collective bargaining agreement will expire. Despite demonstrating our willingness to compromise in order to get a deal done, the WNBA and its teams have failed to meet us at the table with the same spirit and seriousness.
Let's examine what truly took place. The 2020 WNBA collective bargaining agreement formally ended on January 20th, 2025, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Days earlier, the owners publicly declared they would not lock out the players in a calculated move. Make a wise move. They instantly gained moral superiority as a result. However, the Players Association reacted by erecting an inflatable rat outside the NBA store in New York, rather than matching that level of professionalism. Indeed, a real protest rat. The global symbol of worker protest was what they were aiming for. The true message it conveyed. We're handling the billion-dollar basketball discussions as if they were a doctor's strike. The issue with optics in contemporary labor disputes is as follows. The side that appears since the WNBA has never made a profit in its 29-year existence, public support is more important than in virtually any other league. NBA subsidies and the owner's determination to continue investing in a financially troubled league provide every dollar that players make. You cannot afford to appear to be the unreasonable side when negotiating from that stance.
The Caitlin Clark boom, they care about that kind of shit. But actual sports fans don't. Not only do they not care, they don't want to hear about it. So, let's keep going here. Players care deeply about their fans, take pride in honoring that loyalty every time they take the court. The league's tactics harm current and future players and marginalize the very people who show up for the game in communities across the country. This misguided approach will not work. In the face of the league and team's actions, players remain undeterred, unafraid.
Now contrast those two claims. The Players Association published a 347-word manifesto full of statements such as, pay equity is not optional, regressive provisions that no longer belong in women's basketball, and owners are jeopardizing the livelihoods of players and running out the clock. Instead of framing this as a business negotiation, they presented it as a social justice problem. The league's answer, on the other hand, was 73 words long, professional, succinct, and solely concerned with commercial principles. They pledged to support long-term sustainability, praised the league's extraordinary success, and highlighted that raising player compensation significantly was a top objective. One of the statements seems to have been written by labor activists seeking a confrontation. Fans recognized right away that the other sounded like it was prepared by executives attempting to make a transaction. The story is told in the comment sections of many sports media outlets. People who were sympathetic to underpaid athletes at the beginning of these discussions are now saying things like, I'm team owner at this point and the players' union is insufferable.
To secure a transformational new CBA, this agreement must include a salary system tied to a meaningful share of the revenue that would not exist without player labor, mandate professional working conditions, and require protections that honor players who built the league and set the next generation up for success. Make no mistake, pay equity is non-optional, and progress is long overdue. We urge the league and its teams To meet this moment, the players have already and will continue to.
The difference between what owners are proposing and what players want shows why this negotiation has gotten so acrimonious. So let's discuss what is truly on the table. The owners have suggested significant pay raises. More than tripling the average player compensation under the current system is what we are discussing. The highest pay would significantly increase. Conventional labor bargaining standards would significantly increase rookie-scale contracts. This is a substantial initial offer, particularly for a league that has never turned a profit. However, the owners are currently unable to provide the players with what they desire. A 50-50 revenue split based on gross sales, akin to what NFL and NBA players get. That seems reasonable at first glance. In lucrative leagues, major league athletes receive about half of the earnings. Why shouldn't NBA players receive the same compensation? This is the reason. Only when there is real profit to split can revenue sharing be effective. The NBA and NFL split revenue since there are still hundreds of millions or billions of dollars left over after all operating costs, arena fees, travel, employee salaries, and other expenses are covered. Owners and players split the remaining funds. However, the WNBA has no money left over. Every year, the league experiences financial losses. It receives tens of millions of dollars in annual subsidies from the NBA. In a league that is if owners are losing money, asking for a percentage of gross income is effectively asking them to raise their losses proportionately as the league expands.
I mean, people are like team owner at this point. I mean, they have made them. If it's amazing that WNBA players made themselves feel even more insufferable than prior. That's amazing to me. That's even possible. A lot of people. Insane statement from the PA. There we go, right there. Second comment. Insufferable Players Union. Their statements are as nasty and uncouth as their attitude. It's wild. Yeah, I'm team owners. Have been for a while, even more now.
At this point, time becomes very important. The WNBA just inked new media rights agreements that will significantly increase revenue beginning in 2026. The league's yearly media revenue might triple or quadruple as a result of agreements with ESPN, Amazon Prime, and other platforms. That is actual cash. With that type of money, this league might turn a profit for the first time in its existence. Here's the issue, though. The money is still not here. When the money from the media begins to come in 2 years, the owners are unsure about the precise state of the economy. Instead of using real profit figures, they are using estimates and predictions. Although they haven't yet experienced it, they are aware of the promise. Furthermore, it makes sense that they are reluctant to commit to a revenue-sharing arrangement unless they are certain the league will be successful after 29 years of financing a league that loses money every season. This explains why the negotiations timing is so annoying. The players would be negotiating from a position of demonstrated profitability if they had waited until 2027, 2 years after the new media arrangements. Owners would have real data indicating the league's earnings. The discussion of income sharing would be grounded in actual data rather than forecasts. Look, the league made X amount in profit last year, players may credibly remark. We are worthy of our portion. Rather, they are attempting to impose a revenue-sharing arrangement before anyone is certain that there will be money to split.
That they can never have. That's a good point. That is a good point. This is wild, and it sadly looks like no season. No one cares. Goodbye, Caitlin Clark, 2026 season. They're literally comparing playing basketball to manual labor as if that's the same thing. Sorry, bees. I didn't know it was this. Hard to hoop. Do us real hoops fans a favor and cancel the whole effing league. You bees make well enough money to survive.
But timing and money aren't the only fundamental problems here. It has to do with how the Players Association has presented the whole deal. Take another look at the statement. They use terms like pay equity, regressive provisions, and provisions that no longer belong in women's basketball. This is not being handled as a business dispute, but rather as a civil rights issue. And that's a basic mistake in strategy. You imply that everyone who disagrees with your perspective is on the wrong side of history when you frame a labor conflict as a social justice issue. You're implying that refusing to comply with your demands is not only bad business but also immoral. That could be effective for combating systematic inequality or real prejudice. However, it seems deceptive to negotiate the financial parameters of a professional sports contract in a league that has never been lucrative. It implies that you're attempting to win a business transaction by using social pressure. You cannot prevail based solely on merit.
They got the wrong people involved in these negotiations. You know who should be leading them? Caitlin Clark. Because you can tell she understands the balance that's got to happen. And I will go back to my original statement I made when the news started breaking that they were going to pursue more money and break off from the CBA. I said, you're doing this 2 years too soon. All right, you need to wait till the new media rights deal actually starts. You need to wait till that media rights money starts getting into owners' pockets, and then they can sit back and look at where the league is and how much profit they're finally making, because they should make some profit now.
And fans are able to see right through it. People are pointing out the obvious in the comment sections. Women are not underpaid by the WNBA due to sexism. Based on the money it makes, it is paying what it can afford. That isn't a moral shortcoming. That is the fundamentals of economics. Everyone loses faith in you when you attempt to turn economics into oppression, with the exception of those who were already devoted to your cause. This is the main cause of the WNBA's protracted problems. The league has consistently aimed to be more than just a basketball league. Because it presents itself as a social movement, a statement about women's equality, and a platform for progressive ideals, it has alienated the average sports fan who merely wants to enjoy a solid game of basketball without political criticism. When no one else cared, the original WNBA fanbase, the core supporters, showed up for decades. They cherished that identify as activists. However, instead, they are drafting manifestos about wage equity and building inflatable rats. Despite having very little leverage, they are behaving as though they had it all. As they watch this unfold in real time, fans notice that the players are overplaying their hand. What comes next, then? Although the CBA has ended, talks are still going on. Training camps might potentially begin on time if a deal is made because the owners have stated they won't lock out the players. However, the likelihood of the 2025 season occurring decreases with each day that goes by without an agreement. Furthermore, the season is essentially cancelled if we reach April or May without a settlement, even if no one formally refers to it as such. The best course of action for the Players Association would be to take advantage of the available win, accept the significant pay raises, bank the improvements to working conditions, get the league through the next 2 years of new media deals, return to the table in 2027 with actual profit figures, and negotiate revenue sharing from a position of strength. In a league that is at last gaining popularity, it is how you create long-term success. However, they will kill if they continue to press for demands that the owners are unable to meet, if they continue to frame this as a social justice issue rather than a commercial discussion, and if they continue to make statements that make them appear irrational. The Golden Goose. This league had a chance at sustainability thanks to the Caitlin Clark effect. It has a route to profitability thanks to the new media arrangements, but none of that is important if there isn't a season to profit from. The proprietors have established a boundary. They are not providing revenue sharing to a league that has never turned a profit, despite offering significant raises in pay and working conditions. That is their stance, and it won't change. The Players Association has two options. Either acknowledge the fact and accept the offered agreement, or wait for something they won't receive and let the season pass. In terms of public opinion, the owners currently have all the momentum. Fans resolving a labor issue with management, something that hardly ever occurs in professional sports. That ought to provide the Players Association with all the information they require regarding how poorly they have managed this circumstance. The question is whether they are prepared to change course before it's too late, or if they will allow ideology to take precedence over common sense and cost everyone involved the potentially historic season. What are your thoughts? Should the players accept the pay raises and re-evaluate this in a few years, or are they justified in waiting for revenue sharing? If you believe that WNBA basketball will be played in 2025, please share your thoughts in the comments section.